Hello and welcome to the Integrative Health Convention 2018 online interviews. Today we're going to find out more about using a solution-focused approach to dealing with chronic pain using body-mind coaching with Gerry Andrews, who's speaking at the Integrative Health Convention this October. The Integrative Health Convention is an annual convention in London featuring many leaders in their fields of complementary and conventional medical therapies to help people get better through these various healing practices. It's an opportunity for doctors, therapists, and the public to meet, share, learn from, and connect with each other. We believe that true health is holistic and that people get better in more than just one way. We believe we all have so much to learn from each other, and that the Integrative Health Convention provides a stage for this for therapists, for doctors, and the public. There are a limited number of tickets available, which can be purchased at integrativehealthconvention.co.uk. This series of online interviews will help you to get to know our speakers, who are leaders in their different fields of health, healing, therapy, or medicine, and maybe help you decide which talk to attend out of the 36 talks to choose from over 2 days at the Integrative Health Convention 2018. I'm your host, Dr. Wong, and I've been a GP for the last 12 years in Devon. I'm co-founder of Neurolinguistic Healthcare Limited, the organizers of the Integrative Health Convention. Neurolinguistic Healthcare provides courses in advanced communication skills and therapeutic techniques, as well as training in hypnosis for healthcare providers. Today, I'm speaking to one of our excellent speakers who's coming to the 2018 Integrative Health Convention at the Park Plaza, Victoria in London on the 13th and 14th of October 2018. To share with you what he knows and to tell us a little bit about who he is and what he does and what to expect from his talk at the convention. This is Gerry Andrews.
Hello.
Hi, Gerry.
Hi.
So Gerry's a holistic massage therapist and body-mind coach, and his practice at Shan Holistic Massage Therapy, and I'll put the links below. He offers massage treatments, body-mind coaching sessions, and runs workshops and talks on personal health and development in the workspace. Gerry also works with businesses to address the health of their people and their business. He can be found at www.massagetherapyleads.com. The website is being updated to include information about body-mind coaching, but you can call Gerry personally on his mobile, and I'll put the number down here if you'd like to know more. Great. Hi, Gerry.
Hi, Tove.
I wonder if you could let the audience know a little bit more about yourself, maybe what I haven't covered.
Sure. Yes, I haven't always been a massage therapist. I came into the business a few years ago after doing a series of training, but I started life as a town planner, working for Leeds City Council, where I was for 15 years as a senior planner there. And yes, I always sort of talk to people about this, and people sort of say, wow, that's a big change from what I'm doing now. And I guess so. But I think one of the things which I've found, which has always been like a golden thread through what I've been doing, has been an idea of problem solving, on the one hand, you could say, and also working with people. And in a sense, that still is essentially what I'm doing with the massage work. So that's been, I suppose, a continuous connection for me. But prior to that, I grew up with massage as well, I suppose you could say. My dad, I always remember when we were small, used to massage us as part of, what we did in the family. I'm a quarter Burmese. My grandmother was from the Shan state in Burma, in northern Burma, Magok, which is where they have all the ruby mines. And she was apparently known for being like a sort of herbalist and a healer in the village there. And I suppose my dad has always, grown up with this tradition as well, and that's, I guess, is part of my interest through things. So yeah, I suppose I'm sort of, in a sense, continuing a family tradition to a certain degree. But also, I think what I'm keen to look at, and this has been again part of the range of different things that I've been doing. It's how do you work with people to help them develop and to change. And some of my other roles previously have been as a community development worker, and that certainly has been an area of where you do see people in need, and that manifests itself in all sorts of different ways, whether they're sort of living in chaos and living in difficult circumstances, but that also comes out in their bodies, is what I've sort of seen. But what's always been of interest to me is a way of actually trying to deal with the whole person. And this is something, again, I've sort of looked at and thought about in my management roles, where I've been dealing with staff and dealing with organizations, as to how do they treat and affect people, but also in working in the community and working as a mediator and so on. You're trying to sort of understand, what makes people tick, I suppose you can say, and what affects them. And the whole thing around, I suppose, taking a holistic approach to people is one of the things that I really sort of find is key to what I do and the way that I approach things. In that, I don't think really, you can deal with only one aspect of a person and hope to really affect true change in one single approach. So I suppose from my point of view as a holistic massage therapist, and the reason I was drawn to that way of working was to try and look at the whole person. So it's mind, body, and spirit as well, you could say. And what I'm seeing in the work that I do is that I think people are looking for something which is more than purely a medical approach. And a lot of the time, people say, well, they've been to their GP, and obviously, I think this is really important that people do um, feel they can connect in different ways. And sometimes, sadly, I think they feel one of the things is that they aren't always listened to and heard. They might be getting a solution in one sense, or being given something which may be medication on the one hand. But I think for many as well, it's actually being heard as a whole person and in a rounded way. And I think that's what I try and do as a massage therapist. So that's, I suppose, is part of what what's drawn me to this type of work.
All right. So I think you've mentioned a bit about it, but I'm always curious what brings someone to be interested in their field in health and healing. Can you tell me about the story behind how you started doing what you do now?
Sure. I think one of the things which brought me to where I am now, and is this idea, as I say, of trying to help people in different ways. And some of the work that I was doing previously was much more sort of corporate. I was working in some of the sort of structural systems in a big local authority. You are affecting change, and you're dealing with a lot of, certainly with planning, for example, you're dealing with environmental change, and you're dealing with systems. And in any organization as well, you are dealing with things at that level. You can then drill down to see, well, how are those systems affecting individuals and affecting people? But when I was sort of working in different capacities there, I still felt that I was very sort of distant from actually making a real difference to individuals. And that was where I was starting to see things were needed. So, for example, with some of the community work, I was literally, working on the streets, as it were, in the community. As a community mediator, for example, again, I was working at the interface of where people were coming into conflict. And that was having a big impact on people's health, in effect, their mental state, their well-being, basically. And I suppose looking at things from that point of view of um, conflict and a problem at that interface, you could see how that was affecting people as whole people. You know, it was affecting their mental health, it was affecting their physical health, it was affecting their whole sense of well-being, their spirit, you could say. So what drew me to this work was, again, having had some training, um, probably be 10, 12 years ago, maybe a bit longer than that, with a guy called Shan, who is a very good, not only a body worker, but a body psychotherapist. And that concept of actually being able to work not only with the body, but how you could also start to influence change in people's thinking started to make me think, well, actually, yeah, there is, something very important in this type of work, and something that I could actually maybe start to translate into feeling I could do something to help deal with those situations that I was seeing and was struggling to really sort of make any effective change in people's lives with. So that drew me into thinking that actually, working as a holistic massage therapist, using body work, but equally then leading into this idea of how do you work on people's minds as much as their bodies, and the interconnection between the two has been crucial. And again, over the more recent years, I've done some work part-time as a work coach, for example. And in some of the work that I've been doing there, that reinforced my appreciation for using coaching as a tool. Because one of the things that I was seeing was that a lot of the time people were being expected to perform well at interviews, be able to respond for things, to maybe look at what they could offer, um, but were really struggling. So that whole issue of confidence and their low self-esteem, and how do you actually help to bring people up into that state to be able to perform, was very much to do with what was going on in their heads. And like one person, well, somebody was sort of describing it really well. It was just saying, you know, what what do you say to yourself when you're by yourself about yourself? And if you think about what that question is, or that statement is actually saying, we beat ourselves up so much, and that comes out in our bodies. So really, this whole point of being able to integrate the ways of working, but actually not purely as an expert who people are coming to find a solution and to be fixed, which is often where I suppose some of our healthcare work is being seen. People, come to you as a physio or as a massage therapist or whatever, as a GP, for example, and they're looking for a fix. They're looking for a quick fix almost sometimes. And yet, a lot of the time, the issue is actually deeper. And it's how do you actually start to get people to feel that you can work alongside them to help them actually start to help themselves and heal, because that takes time. It's a process. It's not a quick fix in uh, my view. So that, I think, is really, really important, and it's something which has grown, I think, out of my understanding of how people work better, how you could work better with them, and in different ways. So I think applying different principles from different fields to what I do, I think, is now beginning to make a lot more sense to me.
Great. So in October, at the Park Plaza in London, you were going to talk to uh, our audience
Yep,
um, about a solution-focused approach to chronic pain conditions.
yep,
Can you
yep,
tell us a little
yep.
bit more about what this is about and what the audience will gain out of it?
The work that I've been increasingly drawn to, in a sense, and sort of seeing some real benefits from, let's say, is using coaching as an approach, where you are actually not only um, doing the work on the body work, where you actually are helping people deal with particular problems that they come with, but some of the issues are very much around how people are seeing themselves, how they are thinking about things, and how they are thinking about themselves as part of the solution. Now, very often, I think people come to you because they want a problem solving. And as therapists as well, I think it's very easy for us to see ourselves as that solution to the problem and a way that we can help, which is absolutely fine. I mean, this is what I do. People come with various aches and pains and so on, and I use various techniques and approaches to help address those things. But the difficulty sometimes can be that it's not only just the physical issues that people are bringing, but it's what's sitting behind that. And sometimes people can get locked in with chronic pain because a lot of the source of that is actually in the emotions,
Mm.
and it's what's happened, to them in the past that they may have put to one side, and it is only in later life that all this comes back to haunt them, and literally it's the demon on their shoulders which they can feel. So there are things there that also we have to talk about and to get people thinking about in order to address the real issues behind chronic pain. But the interesting thing is around using a solutions-focused approach, which again, for me, it started off in therapy, actually. So obviously there are lots of psychotherapists, counselors out there who use this approach, but in applying it to body work, this is what I find quite interesting, that actually it's about both me and the client changing our mindset to, rather than purely being focused on problem solving, it's how do we look at a solution, because you don't always find the solution to the problem in investigating the problem more and more and more. And yet, sometimes I suppose people like to come in and talk about how they got stuck and what's going on, and they get stuck in the problem. But what I'm finding really is actually if you can change the language, change the thinking that people are having about themselves and how they start to see themselves, not as somebody in pain, but somebody who is actually able to cope. And the fact that actually they are still able to cope despite being in pain, changing our thinking into looking at what's possible and how they're able to continue to survive and to cope with whatever they're doing. What are they noticing that is actually helping them to keep going and to keep making those little steps each time? It's those incremental changes. And that's part of the approach, really, that I think is helping people to just change their perception of themselves and of the situation they're in, to rather being stuck in, I need to understand this problem, I need to go, really delve into it and get to grips with it. Well, okay, you're in that state, but how are you actually noticing that you're coping and making those changes day by day? And that change in thinking, I think, does make a difference in people.
Good. And then you're going to give some practical examples about how you suggest to do this with solution-focused therapy.
Yes, yes. I mean, what I will be talking about on the day will be some of the case studies with certain examples of people that I've worked with where that's beginning to help them to change. So there are instances where people who have been stuck, I suppose you could say, in bereavement, for example. That is one thing where people don't even realize, what is the issue. They might come with back pain, which they've been living with for a few years, but it's only when you start to explore and open up the issues that they reconnect to themselves. And this is where I think the combination of body work with coaching and the body-mind coaching that I work with is how do you actually bring the body into that conversation, not only in our conversation, which is quite key, but also in their own conversation with themselves, and getting people to think about things so that they start to notice what's changing rather
Mm.
than focusing on what's wrong. And it's that point about sort of starting to think about changing the question that they're asking themselves. So rather than asking the question, well, what's wrong with me?
That's right.
Look at, well, okay, well, how can I improve?
Great.
So it's changed the focus, and we'll be using some examples of where that's worked for people, and also, again, hopefully give the audience some takeaways in terms of just the questions that they can use differently. And it's very, very simple things. It's not a complicated thing necessarily. It's as we say, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Okay.
Okay.
The Integrative Health Convention, where the audience will be made up of doctors, therapists, and the public. Where do you see your particular practice fitting in with integrative health or holistic health?
I call what I do, I suppose, integrative healthcare, or holistic healthcare. Really is one of the labels that I've used in the past in some of my information. So it ties in absolutely. And I think when I saw actually one of my colleagues, Earl Abramson, who is also one of the speakers. He's the chair of my Massage Training Institute. I sort of came across the convention through seeing what he was doing about that, and it just made amazing sense to me because it's exactly we're talking exactly the same language. I feel, and it's this idea, as I say previously, that I think when we're putting the person at the center of what we do, we're not necessarily the expert, looking in and helping them out of that situation. We're working with them. But again, it's the whole person. So I think, if we're looking at somebody who might need, massage on the one hand to deal with stiff muscles and problems that might have crept up, but equally they might benefit from chiropractor or going and seeing a counselor to help them deal with some of the other things. Or they obviously might still need to go and see you as their GP to deal with the other things that are necessary in medical terms. But if we were to be able to work as an integrated team, in effect,
Mm-hmm.
for that person to be able to not just choose who they go and see, but benefit from as a whole, then surely that can only be in the best interest of helping that individual. So things like, what's happening at the moment within the medical world, social prescribing, I think there, you as GPs clearly understand what impact on people as people. And again, I'm sort of quite interested in how we use different terms. I think, you use the term patient, we use the term client, but essentially, we're people are people who have different lives going on in their background. They've got all sorts of stuff happening in their family or their job or what they're doing and so on. So they bring all of that, don't they, to to ask for help in different ways. And what I feel is really important is, as a therapist, we've got to be able to hear that whole story. And I think sadly, I suspect a lot of our mainstream systems are, can only deal with different aspects of people, it seems. And so the person who's coming for help doesn't feel as if they're getting that holistic approach. So I think, in a sense, what's really important is that perhaps, in our different professions, we still have that understanding and that perception of the whole
Right.
and the ability to connect between and maybe hopefully cross refer as well would be an ideal
Mm-hmm.
situation to be
Absolutely. I know a lot of GPs do recommend massage as a because
in.
everyone's
Really.
familiar with it. It's one of those things you don't have to explain to people.
I'm actually surprised at sometimes just how many people that I see who've never had a massage, have never been touched. I think this
Mm,
whole thing around touch, and this is really, I suppose, what I'm really quite interested in is this idea of listening touch.
mm,
We listen with our hands, we develop our palpatory skills,
mhm,
and yet I hear so many times where clients have been to their GP for aches and pains, and then they get referred to the physio, and they're disappointed. They think, well, nobody's even touched me.
mm,
They've heard me talk about things. They've heard words. It all seems to be, in our heads in terms of how we conceive of the issue. But if they don't actually have that physical contact, well, how do you know? How do you feel what's going on?
mm. Absolutely.
And that's I think a big
No, we hear that very
failing in the
often as
system.
well. Yeah, the doctor didn't even touch me.
Mm,
Yeah, um, to us, um, maybe that's not so important because that's not what we're taught. But to the patient
sure.
or the client,
Yeah.
they yeah, it's important to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think
Definitely
that
something we can learn from this.
Yeah. And I think that idea of human connection
Yeah.
and touch is an essential part of that. And if we avoid that and don't feel comfortable with that, then we're missing that ability to connect in different ways with people. And I think, we use words a lot, don't we, in our
Mm.
world? And yet, I think the physicality of touch is something that if we don't use that as well as a way of communicating,
Mm.
we're losing so much in that.
Great. So I'm asking one last question, Gerry. As a therapist or teacher with years of experience, what do you think in particular is the key to healing in what you do?
Okay. Listening, I think, is one of the critical things. And as I say, what I feel I bring, which is perhaps different or else at least unique in a sense to me, is what I talk about in terms of listening touch. So it's both about not only what we're doing with our hands, but it's also bringing our humanity to the table, is what I talk about. And it's bringing the whole of ourselves, so that we're not just feeling what's going on with people, but we're also there alongside them, hearing not just the words that they're talking about, but feeling maybe some of the emotions that are going on in the background. So that intuition is one of the key things that I feel is really important in what I do. And I suppose what I feel is different or particular to me, um, is all of the background of things that I've, you know, things that I've gained, things that I've learned, my history, I suppose you can say, is what I bring. So that level of understanding is what is unique. Everybody's got their own uniqueness that they bring to this, to their practice, to their work. Um, so I think that's what I find is sort of helpful. Is,
I love the concept of listening touch. I like that.
so do I.
Okay. So, thank you. Thanks, Gerry. And
Thank
thank
you.
you to the audience for taking your time to listen and watch this interview. So remember to get your tickets early now from our website. Um, we are the Integrative Health Convention in London on the 13th and 14th of October 2018 at the Park Plaza, Victoria. You can use the discount code podcast10, which will give you a 10% discount as a gift from us to you for sharing your time with us. When we see you in October in London, you'll get to meet Gerry, myself, and all our other amazing speakers who'll be sharing so much more with you then. There are 36 different talks to choose from over 2 days. I wish I could attend every single one of them, as you can tell.
Sure.
Fascinating things to learn from each of them. So we hope to see you there. Thank you.